Have you ever had that moment when a single sentence destroys everything you believed in? That second when the world stops and you realize that the person you trusted most was stabbing you in the back all along? Well, that happened to me on my 24th birthday when my best friend of 10 years looked directly into my eyes and said, "You don't deserve him." But what I discovered 3 days later in his phone messages showed me that this sentence wasn't just gratuitous cruelty. It was much, much worse. Let me go back to the beginning of this story that still keeps me awake some nights. My name is Sarah, and until 3 months ago, I was certain I knew perfectly the two most important people in my life: Jake, my boyfriend of 2 years, and Madison, my best friend since I was 14. Jake was everything I had always dreamed of in a partner. Tall, brown hair, always messy in a charming way, that crooked smile that melted me completely. He worked as an engineer at a big company and had this calm and caring personality that made me feel safe. We started dating after we met at a graduation party. I was finishing my psychology degree, he was already established in his career, and from the first date, it seemed like we had found each other. Madison, on the other hand, was my anchor since adolescence. We met in high school when she moved to town, and we instantly became inseparable. She had this contagious energy, was always the more outgoing between the two of us, the one who encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone. Curly blonde hair, expressive green eyes, and a personality that lit up any room. She worked in advertising and always had a knack for winning people over. What I loved most about our friendship was how she always supported me in everything. When I doubted myself, Madison was there. When I started dating Jake, she was the first person I told, and I remember her excitement to this day. "Sarah, you deserve to be happy. He seems perfect for you." During the 2 years of my relationship with Jake, Madison was always present. She went out with us, participated in our plans, knew all the details of our life together. I told her everything: the silly fights, the romantic moments, future plans. It was like she was part of the relationship, in a healthy way, or at least that's what I thought. Jake also really liked her. He always said I was lucky to have such a loyal friend and that he was happy to know I had someone so special in my life. The three of us formed a perfect trio, or at least that's how I saw our dynamic. Then came my 24th birthday. I was super excited because it would be the first time I organized a big party in my life. I was always more reserved, preferred small celebrations, but this year I wanted something special. Jake had suggested we do something different, and Madison had offered to help with all the organization. We spent weeks planning every detail. Madison took on practically all the decoration and guest list, while Jake handled the music and drinks. I felt so lucky to have these two people taking care of me this way. The party would be on Saturday night, in the party room of the building where I lived. In the week leading up to the birthday, I noticed something strange. Madison was different with me, more distant, somewhat evasive. When I asked about the party preparations, she responded curtly, almost irritated. I tried to talk to her about it, but she always changed the subject, saying she was just stressed with work. Jake also seemed kind of weird. He was on his phone more than usual, and when I asked who he was talking to, he gave vague answers like "work people" or "my sister." Sometimes I caught him laughing at some message, but when I got close, he quickly put his phone away. I tried not to think too much about it. After all, they were organizing my surprise party, so it made sense they would be talking about details without including me, right? At least, that's what I told myself every time that strange feeling in my stomach appeared. On Friday before the birthday, Madison came to sleep over to help with last-minute preparations. I was excited to have this time together, like old times. We ordered pizza, opened a bottle of wine, and started talking about the party. That's when I realized something was really wrong. Madison could barely look me in the eyes, and every time I mentioned Jake, she changed the subject. When I commented about how happy I was to have him in my life, She made a subtle grimace that I almost missed. "Madison, are you sure everything's okay? You seem strange with me," I asked directly. She sighed deeply and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. There was something there that made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't identify what it was. "Sarah, have you ever stopped to think if you and Jake are really compatible?" she asked, and her voice had a tone I didn't recognize. The question caught me completely by surprise. "What do you mean by that?" "Nothing, forget it. It's just that sometimes I think you two are very different. He's more mature, more experienced, and you're still kind of lost in life, you know?" Her words hurt me deeply. It was like she had found exactly the point where I felt most insecure and pressed hard. I'd always been afraid of not being good enough for Jake, of being too immature or inexperienced for him. "I don't understand why you're saying this," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sorry, I didn't mean to be cruel. It's just that I worry about you, and sometimes I think you force yourself to be someone you're not just to please him." The rest of the night was strange between us. We went to sleep without resolving the tension, and I spent the entire night awake thinking about her words. Why was Marison, who had always supported me, questioning my relationship right now? Saturday arrived, the day of my party. I woke up trying to forget the previous night's conversation and focus on enjoying my birthday. Jake arrived early to help with the final details, and seeing him made me feel better immediately. "Happy birthday, love," he said, giving me a loving kiss and handing me a bouquet of beautiful flowers. "I hope you have the best day of your life." For a moment, everything seemed normal again. Jake was being the perfect boyfriend, as always. Madison was helping with decoration, and I was starting to get really excited about the party. But as the night approached and guests started arriving, I noticed something that made me uncomfortable. Madison and Jake were talking a lot, more than I remembered seeing them do before. They had whispered discussions in corners, low giggles, and an intimacy that made me feel excluded from my own party. Whenever I approached them, they quickly separated as if they had been caught doing something wrong. I tried to ignore it, focus on other guests, but it was impossible not to notice. The party was going well, the music was good, people were having fun, but I felt strangely displaced. It was like I was watching my own life from the outside, seeing signs I couldn't completely interpret. It was when it came time to sing happy birthday that everything collapsed. Everyone gathered around the table where my cake was. It was a beautiful cake. Chocolate with Brigadeiro frosting, exactly as I had always wanted. The candles were lit, people singing happy birthday, and I should have been happy. But something in the air was heavy, tense, as if everyone knew something I didn't. Jake was on my right side, smiling, but I noticed he avoided looking at Madison, who was on my left side. And Madison, she seemed to be fighting some internal demon, her expression alternating between sadness and something that looked like guilt. When the song ended and I leaned down to blow out the candles, I made a silent wish that everything would return to normal, that this strange feeling in my chest would disappear, that my best friend and my boyfriend would go back to being the people I knew. But birthday wishes don't always come true. After I cut the cake and people started spreading around the party again, I tried to pull Madison aside to talk. I needed to resolve that tension between us, needed to understand what was happening. "Madison, can we talk for a minute?" I asked, gently touching her arm. She looked at me with those green eyes I knew so well, but there was something different in them, a hardness I had never seen before. "Sure, Sarah. I think we really need to talk." We went to my room, away from the music and people. I closed the door and turned to her, hoping we could finally clear everything up. "Madison, I don't understand what's happening. You've been acting strange with me for weeks, and last night you questioned my relationship with Jake in a way you never did before. We've been best friends for 10 years. Please tell me what's going on." She remained silent for a long moment, looking at the floor. When she finally raised her eyes to me, there were tears forming, but there was something that scared me: determination. "Sarah, I didn't want to have to do this today, on your birthday, but I can't pretend anymore." My heart started racing. "What did you just say?" "You heard right. You don't deserve Jake. He's mature, ambitious, knows what he wants from life, and you're still trying to figure out who you are. He deserves someone who's on the same level as him, someone who can really keep up with his pace." Tears started running down my face. "How can you say this to me? You're my best friend." "That's exactly why I'm saying it. Because I love you enough to be honest. You're forcing yourself to be someone you're not to please him. You changed the way you dress, started being interested in things that never interested you, abandoned your own dreams to support his." Every word was a stab, because deep down, very deep down, there was a part of me that recognized myself in what she was saying. I really had changed since I started dating Jake. But I thought it was growth, evolution. Could it just be loss of identity? "Madison, even if there was some truth in what you're saying, this isn't the way to help me. Not today, not like this." "When then, Sarah? When you're engaged, married, with children? When will it be too late for you to realize you're living someone else's life?" I couldn't speak anymore. The tears were coming so hard I could barely breathe. My best friend, the person I trusted most in the world, had just destroyed my self-esteem in the cruelest way possible. "I think you better leave," I managed to say between sobs. For a moment, I saw a flash of what seemed to be regret in her eyes. "Sarah, leave. Madison, please." She hesitated for a few seconds, then left the room in silence. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried until I had no more tears. When I finally came out, Jake was looking for me. "Love, where were you? I look for you everywhere." He saw my swollen face from crying so much. My God, what happened? I couldn't tell him what Madison had said. How could I repeat those horrible words? How could I admit that my best friend thought I wasn't good enough for him? Just a silly fight with Madison. She already left. Jake hugged me tight. "Do you want me to send everyone home? We can cancel the rest of the party." "No, I don't want to ruin everyone else's party. Just give me a minute to pull myself together." The rest of the night passed like a blur. I tried to pretend I was okay, smile at the guests, thank them for the gifts, but inside I was shattered. Madison's words echoed in my head. "You don't deserve him." When the last guests left and Jake and I were alone cleaning up the mess, he tried to talk to me again. "Sarah, are you sure everything's okay? You were different after you talked to Madison." "I'm fine, Jake. Just tired." But I wasn't fine. Not at all. That night, lying in bed next to him, I stayed awake thinking about every word Madison had said. Was she right? Had I really lost my identity in the relationship? Wasn't I good enough for Jake? The next 2 days were hell. Madison tried to call me several times, but I didn't answer. She sent messages apologizing, saying she had exaggerated, that it wasn't quite what she meant to say, but the damage was done. Jake noticed something was wrong with me, but every time he asked, I changed the subject. How could I tell him that my best friend thought our relationship was a farce? How could I admit that part of me was starting to question if she wasn't right? On Tuesday, 3 days after my birthday, Jake had an important meeting at work and left his phone charging at my house. He always did this, was never jealous or possessive. We always had complete trust in each other. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard his phone vibrate with a notification. Normally, I wouldn't even pay attention, but for some reason, that day, something made me look. The screen was lit and I could see a preview of the message on the lock screen. It was from Madison. "Jake, I can't stand this situation anymore. I need to talk to you about last night. Sarah can't know, but..." My blood ran cold. My first reaction was denial. It couldn't be what I was thinking. There had to be an innocent explanation. Madison and Jake are friends too. Maybe she wanted advice on how to fix our friendship. But a small, cruel voice in my head whispered, "What if it's not innocent? What if her words on your birthday weren't just cruelty, but guilt?" My hands were shaking as I picked up his phone. I knew I shouldn't. Invading my boyfriend's privacy went against everything I believed in, but I needed to know. With my heart beating so loud I could hear it, I unlocked his phone. Jake had never hidden his password from me. It was the date of our first date. Another proof of the trust we had in each other, a trust I was about to break. I opened his messages with Madison, and what I saw made my world collapse completely. The first thing that caught my attention was the amount of messages. They had been talking much more than I imagined. Daily messages, sometimes several a day, for weeks. How had I not noticed this before? I started reading from top to bottom, and each message was like a stab to my chest. Madison, 3 weeks before my birthday. "Jake, I can't stop thinking about our conversation yesterday. Do you really think Sarah suspects anything?" Jake, "No, she trusts us both too much. Sometimes I feel bad about it." Madison, "I feel bad too, but at the same time, I've never felt as alive as when I'm with you." My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the phone. This couldn't be happening, not with the two people I trusted most in the world. I continued reading, even knowing each word would destroy me a little more. Jake, 2 weeks before. "Madison, we need to end this. I can't lie to Sarah anymore. She doesn't deserve this." Madison, "Jake, please don't do this to me. You know what we have is special. It's different from what you have with her." Jake, "It's different, I know, but it's wrong." Madison, "What's wrong is you staying with someone who doesn't truly complete you. Sarah is sweet, but you both know you're not perfect for each other. With me, you can be yourself." I felt like I was going to vomit. Madison was using exactly the same arguments she had used with me on my birthday, but inverted. To me, she said I didn't deserve him. To him, she said he didn't deserve to be trapped with me. The conversation continued, and it got worse and worse. Jake, "Madison, this is killing me. I love Sarah, but when I'm with you..." Madison, "You feel complete. I know, because I feel the same thing." Jake, "We didn't choose this. It happened." Jake, "When did this start? When did we get lost like this?" Madison, "I think it was always there, don't you think? Since we met. We just took a while to admit it." I was reading about the beginning of a relationship between my boyfriend and my best friend, and it was like watching a horror movie where you want to scream at the characters not to do it, but they do it anyway. But the worst was yet to come. A week before my birthday, Jake had sent, "Madison, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to tell Sarah everything after her birthday. She deserves to know the truth." Madison, "Jake, you can't do that. It will destroy her completely."
"We're already destroying her, Madison. At least this way she'll be able to move on. What if you broke up with her without telling her the real reason? Made up some excuse? What kind of person do you think I am? I'm not going to lie to her more than I already have. So what do you want me to do? Disappear from both your lives? I don't know. I just know this can't continue." And then came the message that made me understand everything, that showed me how Madison had orchestrated everything on my birthday. Madison, on the day of my party, "Jake, I had an idea. What if I can make Sarah realize for herself that you two aren't compatible? If she herself comes to the conclusion that it's better for you to break up." How would you do that? "Leave it to me. It'll be better this way. She won't feel rejected. She'll feel empowered for having made the decision." Madison, "Don't do anything drastic. Please. Trust me." And then, right after my party, the message that had appeared on the screen. Madison, Jake, I can't stand this situation anymore. I need to talk to you about last night. Sarah can't know, but I think I went too far. She was really hurt. What did you do, Madison? I told her some truths she needed to hear about you two not being compatible, but maybe it was too direct. My God, Madison, you promised you wouldn't do anything drastic. It was for everyone's good, Jake. Now she'll rethink the relationship and you can break up naturally. And you think after this we can be together after hurting Sarah like this? Jake, we love each other. Sarah will get over it, she's strong, but we can't waste this chance to be happy. I was in total shock. My best friend hadn't said those cruel things to me out of honesty or concern for me. She had said them because she wanted to push me away from my boyfriend so she could be with him. But what hurt me more than her betrayal was realizing that Jake had participated in all of this. He knew about her feelings, reciprocated them, and yet continued with me, lying every day. I continued reading the most recent messages from the last 2 days. Jake, yesterday. Madison, I can't do this anymore. I can't look at Sarah knowing what we did. Madison, you're blaming yourself for nothing. We didn't do anything on purpose. Love just happened. We betrayed her in every way possible, except physically. And even physically. My heart stopped. Even physically? What did that mean? Madison, it was just a kiss, Jake. A moment of weakness. Sarah doesn't need to know. A kiss. They kissed. My 2-year boyfriend and my 10-year best friend kissed? I dropped the phone and ran to the bathroom where I vomited everything I had in my stomach. Then I sat on the cold bathroom floor and cried like I never cried in my life. Everything made sense now. The strange behavior of both in recent weeks, the whispered conversations at my party, the way Madison looked at me with guilt, the cruel words she had said to me. Everything had been calculated to make me break up with Jake so she could be with him without feeling completely guilty. But what hurt me more than her betrayal was realizing that Jake had participated in all of this. He knew about her feelings, reciprocated them, and yet continued with me, lying every day. I continued reading the most recent messages from the last 2 days. Jake, yesterday. Madison, I can't do this anymore. I can't look at Sarah knowing what we did. Madison, you're blaming yourself for nothing. We didn't do anything on purpose. Love just happened. We betrayed her in every way possible, except physically. And even physically. My heart stopped. Even physically? What did that mean? Madison, it was just a kiss, Jake. A moment of weakness. Sarah doesn't need to know. A kiss. They kissed! My 2-year boyfriend and my 10-year best friend kissed? I dropped the phone and ran to the bathroom where I vomited everything I had in my stomach. Then I sat on the cold bathroom floor and cried like I never cried in my life. Everything made sense now. The strange behavior of both in recent weeks, the whispered conversations at my party, the way Madison looked at me with guilt, the cruel words she had said to me. Everything had been calculated to make me break up with Jake so she could be with him without feeling completely guilty. But what hurt me more than her betrayal was realizing that Jake had participated in all of this. He knew about her feelings, reciprocated them, and yet continued with me, lying every day. When I stopped crying, a cold anger took over me. Did they think I was stupid? That I would never find out? That I would accept their lies and end the relationship like a good girl? No, I wasn't going to make it easy for them. I picked up Jake's phone again and started taking photos of the conversations. Every message, every word, every proof of their betrayal. I was going to confront them, but not without evidence. After photographing everything, I put the phone back exactly where it was. Jake couldn't know I had discovered it. At least, not yet. I needed a plan. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that was already cold and started thinking. How was I going to deal with this?
How was I going to confront not just my boyfriend's betrayal, but also my best friend's betrayal? Part of me wanted to just disappear, vanish, let them be together and move on with my life. But another part, a part I didn't know existed, wanted revenge, wanted them to feel at least a fraction of the pain they had caused me. While I was planning what to do, I heard the key in the door. Jake was coming back. "Hi, love," he said, entering the kitchen with that smile I had always loved and that now made me feel sick. "How are you? You look better today." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Actually, I was thinking that maybe I should call Madison and try to resolve our fight." His face changed subtly. A shadow of panic passed through his eyes. "Are you sure? Maybe it's better to give you both time to cool down." "No, Jake. She's my best friend for 10 years. I can't let a silly fight destroy our friendship." He picked up the phone that was charging on the counter, quickly checked the messages, and I saw the relief on his face when he realized I hadn't touched it. If only he knew. "You know what?" I said, getting up and giving him a kiss on the cheek. A kiss that cost me all my self-control not to seem fake. "I think I'm going to surprise you both. How about I prepare a dinner here at home? Tomorrow night. We can resolve everything at once." Jake was visibly uncomfortable. "Love, are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe it's too soon." "No, Jake, it's exactly what we need. The three of us talking like adults, resolving our differences. What do you think?" He had no way to refuse without seeming suspicious. "If that's what you want, it's exactly what I want." That night, while Jake slept beside me, I stayed awake planning every detail of the next day's dinner. Because Madison and Jake were right about one thing. I really had changed since I started dating. But they had no idea how much. On Wednesday, I spent the entire day preparing everything with a calm that surprised me. It was as if a stronger version of myself had awakened from the pain and betrayal. I was no longer the naive Sarah who blindly trusted people. I had learned a brutal lesson about trust, and now it was time to apply that knowledge. I called Madison in the morning. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear the anxiety in her voice. "Sarah, I'm so glad you called. I was dying to talk to you. About Monday, Madison," I cut her off, keeping my voice soft and controlled. "I thought a lot about what you said, and you're right. We need to talk. How about a dinner tonight? You, me, and Jake. We can resolve everything at once." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. "Sarah, are you sure? Maybe it's better if we talk alone first." "No, Madison. Jake needs to be present too. After all, it's about his relationship too, isn't it?" Another pause. Of course. What time?" 7:30. I'll make that risotto you both love." After I hung up, I sent a message to Jake. "I invited Madison for dinner today. I hope that's okay." He responded almost immediately. "Of course, love. Are you sure you're ready for this?" "More than ready." I spent the afternoon cooking, but my mind was focused on something else. I had decided I wasn't going to simply confront them with the messages. That would be too easy, too quick. They deserved to feel at least a little bit of the confusion and pain they made me feel. At 7:30 sharp, Madison arrived. She was visibly nervous, carrying a bottle of wine as an apology. "Sarah, you look different." "Different how?" "Calmer. More, I don't know, more centered." I smiled. Maybe that's what happens when you finally see things clearly. Jake arrived a few minutes later, and the tension in the air was palpable. They barely looked at each other, but I noticed the small signs, the way he avoided being near her, how she nervously played with her hair every time he passed by. "Delicious, love," Jake said, tasting the risotto. "It's perfect." "Thank you. I really put effort into it today. After all, it's not every day that we gather the three most important people in my life at one table. Madison almost choked on her wine. During the first few minutes of dinner, we tried to maintain normal conversation, but the discomfort was obvious. Jake was clearly tense, Madison seemed to be fighting something internal, and I was observing every movement, every look, every unspoken word between them. So, I said, putting down my fork and looking directly at Madison, about our conversation on my birthday, I thought a lot about what you said. Both stiffened in their chairs. Sarah, I really am sorry about that. I went too far. I shouldn't have. No, Madison, you were right. I turned to Jake. We really aren't compatible, are we, Jake? He looked at me confused. Sarah, what are you talking about? Of course we're compatible. Are we really? Because lately I've noticed that you seem more connected to other people than to me. The silence that followed was deafening. Madison was white as paper, and Jake seemed to have stopped breathing. Sarah, Jake began. No, my voice came firmer than I expected. Now you're going to listen to me. You two spent weeks, maybe months behind my back, not just relating emotionally, but planning how to manipulate me. I looked directly at Madison. You orchestrated that whole scene on my birthday. Those cruel words weren't a moment of sincerity. They were a calculated strategy to make me break up with Jake so you could be together without feeling completely guilty. Tears started running down her face. Sarah, I can explain. Then explain. Explain how my best friend of 10 years managed to look me in the eyes and destroy me emotionally, knowing it was all a lie. Explain how you managed to sit at my table, eat the food I made, pretend you cared about me, while planning to steal my boyfriend. Madison was sobbing now. I didn't want it to be like this. I fell in love with him, Sarah. I didn't choose this. You didn't choose to fall in love, Madison, but you chose to act on it. You chose to betray me instead of being honest with me. You chose to hurt me instead of walking away. I turned to Jake, who was still silent, looking at his own hands. And you, Jake, you who always talked about honesty, about how important it was for us to be truthful with each other, how many times did you kiss her while telling me you loved me? He finally raised his eyes to me, and I could see he was crying. Once, Sarah. It was only once, and I regretted it immediately. Once physically, Jake, but how many times emotionally? How many times did you share with her things you should have shared with me? How many times did you console her about problems I didn't even know existed? How many times did you choose her instead of me, even while being with me? He couldn't answer. I got up from the table and went to the window, looking at the city below. The lights seemed blurred because of the tears I was trying to contain. You know what hurts me most? It's not even the betrayal itself. It's the way you did it. You made me feel crazy, paranoid, insecure. You made me question my own perception of reality. Madison, you told me I didn't deserve Jake, when actually you were trying to convince yourself that you deserved him more than I did. I turned to them again. And the worst of all is that you almost succeeded. I really started to believe there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't good enough, that I was deluding myself about our relationship. Madison got up from her chair and came toward me. Sarah, please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake. Our friendship means everything to me. I stopped her with a hand gesture. Our friendship meant everything to me too, Madison. It meant more than any man. If you had come to me and said, Sarah, I fell in love with Jake. I don't know what to do. I would have been hurt, but we would have found a way to deal with it. Maybe our friendship wouldn't have survived, but at least it would have died with dignity. Sarah, we can try again. We can rebuild our friendship, she pleaded. How, Madison? How can I trust you again? How can I be sure you won't stab me in the back the next time you want something that's mine? Jake finally spoke. Sarah, what do you want us to do? How can we fix this? I looked at him. at the man I thought would be my future and felt a deep sadness, but also a strange clarity. You can't fix it, Jake. There's no fixing this. You completely destroyed trust, and without trust, there's no relationship, whether romantic or friendship. I sat down at the table again, facing both of them. But I want you both to know something. You didn't break me. You hurt me deeply, but you didn't break me. Actually, you taught me valuable lessons about who I am and what I deserve. I looked at Jake. Madison was wrong when she said I didn't deserve you, Jake. The truth is, you don't deserve me. I deserve someone who chooses me every day, who is loyal, who is honest, someone who protects me instead of betraying me. Then I looked at Madison. And I deserve a friend who celebrates my victories instead of trying to sabotage them, who supports me instead of manipulating me, who is loyal even when it's difficult. I stood up again. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my house and my life. You can be together. You can try to build something on top of the betrayal you committed, but do it away from me. Jake also stood up. Sarah, I know I messed up everything, but I really loved you. I still love you. No, Jake, you don't love me. People who love don't do what you did. You might have liked me, might have gotten used to me, but true love requires respect, and you never respected me enough to be honest with me. Madison was crying uncontrollably now. Sarah, please, don't end our friendship like this. 10 years can't end like this. You're right, Madison. 10 years can't end like this. They already ended weeks ago when you made your first disloyal choice. I'm just officially acknowledging it. I walked to the door and opened it. Please leave. They hesitated for a moment, maybe hoping I would change my mind, that I would give in like I always did. But I didn't give in. Jake stopped at the door. Sarah, if you change your mind, if you want to talk, I won't change my mind, Jake. Madison also stopped. I'm going to send you messages. I won't give up on our friendship. You can send them, Madison, but I won't respond, and eventually you'll stop. After they left, I closed the door and leaned against it. Only then did I allow the tears to come. I cried for the loss of my relationship, for the death of my oldest friendship, for the naivety I would never have again. But while I cried, I also felt something else. Relief. Relief for finally knowing the truth. Relief for not having to pretend everything was okay anymore. Relief for having defended myself. In the days that followed, it was difficult. Madison really sent messages, many messages, begging for forgiveness, for a chance to explain better, for an opportunity to rebuild our friendship. I read them all, but didn't respond to any. Jake also tried to contact me a few times, usually late at night when he was probably alone and regretful. I blocked his number after the third attempt. 3 weeks after the dinner, a mutual friend told me that Jake and Madison were officially together. The news hurt me, but not as much as I expected. It was as if part of me already knew this was going to happen. What surprised me was discovering, a few months later, that their relationship didn't last even 6 months. Apparently, a relationship built on lies and betrayal didn't have solid foundations. Who would have thought? Today, a year after all this, I can say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not what they did to me, that was terrible, but the way I handled it, the strength I discovered I had, the clarity about what I deserve. I learned that sometimes the people we love most are capable of hurting us in ways we never imagined possible. But I also learned that we are stronger than we think, that we deserve more than we're willing to accept, and that sometimes losing toxic people is actually a gain. Madison never completely stopped trying to make contact. Every now and then, I still get a message from her, especially on significant dates, like my birthday or holidays. But I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, and that some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. Jake tried to come back a few times, especially after he broke up with Madison. But I had moved on. I met someone new, someone who chooses me every day, who is honest even when it's difficult, who makes me feel safe and respected. Sometimes I wonder if I was too hard on them, if I should have given them a second chance, especially Madison, considering our long history. But then I remember her words on my birthday, the calculated plan to manipulate me, the lies told with such ease. And I remember the person I became after all of this. Stronger, wiser, less willing to accept less than I deserve. And I realized that in a perverse way, they gave me a gift. They showed me my own worth by trying to convince me I had none. So if you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to convince you that you don't deserve what you have or that you're not good enough, remember, sometimes the people who tell you that you don't deserve something are actually revealing that they don't deserve you. And about my birthday wish that fateful night, well, it came true in a way I never expected. Everything went back to normal. It's just that the normal I found was much better than what I had lost.
Did you like this content? Then subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, leave a like, and share with anyone who needs to reflect on these family challenges. Together, we can transform our relationships.